the ultimate goal here is not the nuclear program. Nobody gives a about the nuclear program. Please stop talking about the nuclear program. If you want to understand what the actual goal here is, the goal has always been the same. Since Benjamin Netanyahu said Iran has nukes or the capacity to build nukes, the goal has always been regime change. The nukes are the casus belli, okay? I think it was 1992 when Benjamin Netanyahu first said it. But I'm saying that, like, they have entertained regime change since the revolution started. If Iran had nukes, none of this would be happening, and the region would be an infinitely more stable region. It's just, it would be more stable in the direction that America doesn't want, though. It would be a region that had more stability because the countries in the region would have more power and more influence and more sovereignty over their own affairs. The only way to basically scale back Israeli aggression in this region is for there to be sovereign states, and there is no sovereignty unless you are outside of the banner of American influence. You do not have any sort of sovereignty whatsoever unless you have nukes. I'm sure that many of you have figured it out by now, but there is perhaps a reason why nobody does this to North Korea. You know what I mean? But they do this and have done this successfully. The countries that they've said have nukes or WMDs, like Iraq, like Libya. Okay? How would nukes be a deterrent, though? It's not like they'll use them, no. Yes, the whole point of having nukes is to never use them. The whole point of having nukes is that they will never use nukes on you. That's the whole point. Because here's the reality. If you have nukes, then other countries that have nukes will nuke you if you use your nukes. And therefore, when you get the nukes, you're not supposed to use the nukes. Okay? The entire purpose of getting the nukes is so you don't get nuked. The threat of using the nukes is what is at the heart of the mutually assured destruction that is the reason why so many countries have engaged in nuclear proliferation. I'm a firm and committed believer into denuclearization, as the NPT suggests is supposed to happen, but I think we all know it's not happening anytime soon. Abdus Salam was the other guy who founded the program but was kicked out of Pakistan because of his religion. His grave was also later desecrated on. That's crazy. Anyway, here is Mossad's very own, IDF's very own Barak Ravid. Netanyahu at a press conference, who Trump personally called and said, your Israel is safe now. Remember that. This guy's gotten awards from every American journalistic enterprise. Barak Ravid. Literally an agent of Israel, like straightforwardly. He is. I'm sorry. I know he works at Axios, but Donald Trump called him last night after bombing Iran and said directly to him, your Israel is safe. Anyway, Netanyahu at a press conference says, we will not be dragged into a war of attrition. When we achieve our goals, the fighting will stop. Okay, well, as I said, when Netanyahu says something like that, just assume the opposite if you want to be right 90% of the time, as opposed to being right 10% of the time. When Netanyahu says something, it means the exact opposite. So he wants to do a war of attrition. Netanyahu said, oh, this will last 2 weeks. That's how you know it was going to be longer than that. Donald Trump says, oh, we want diplomacy. That's how you know it's not going to be diplomacy. Yeah, he said that about October. He said that on October 8th about Gaza, too. Oh, all right. But
Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace.
Other satellite images from recent days show cargo trucks near Fordo. Iranian officials have said all enriched uranium had already been moved.
But Hasan, why would Iran be super aggressive when the only way they can really win is maintain the regime? Trump attacking nuclear sites doesn't really do anything. It's just promoting American weapons, really. And Iran has zero allies in the region other than Yemen. Why would they attack the U.S. and risk American support for regime change up 50%? It'd be a bad move. Great question. Here's the answer. Iran is a part of an American-caused new world order that is being implemented. Okay, you have Iran, China, Russia on one side as regional players, and China being the head of the axis, if you want to call it that. And then you have America and the entire Western nations on the other side, alongside Israel. Okay, Turkey's obviously a part of American, the American side as well. So if Iran recognizes that destabilization is a necessity or is a part of America's goals here, like decapitation potentially, either it happens tomorrow or it happens a week from now or it happens a month from now or it happens 5 years from now, it will inevitably happen. It will inevitably happen. So if they want sovereignty and if they want to basically try and stop the bleeding, either this happens with death by 1,000 cuts, a war of attrition, or they increase the intensity and make themselves an undeniable force in the region. And the only way to do that is by forcing Russia and China's hand into defending Iran. Considering how valuable of an asset Iran is to both of these countries, the fact that they've like basically all but written off Iranian sovereignty in this process is actually quite shocking to me. Are there not sanctions to put on these other nuclear powers like Pakistan and Russia that would limit how they supply nuclear arms to each other? Yes. But considering that there is a secondary network of a secondary market that was cultivated as a direct consequence of America's sanctions regime and the way that America weaponizes SWIFT, you already have a lot of these countries that are not entirely in the sphere of American influence working around that and actively looking for alternatives and actively creating an organically created secondary market. Remember, America has designed sanctions in its sanctions regime in such a way that there is literally now a robust secondary market that can't even work within the global marketplace because America already has hit them with like ridiculous restrictions to begin with. When you sanction everyone, you technically are just sanctioning yourself. And that's precisely what America has done. With the exception of like Western Europe, America's basically been like, you can't enter the Western European markets, which are very important, and you can't enter the American market, which is very important. These are consumer markets, okay? But when you do that, you inevitably create a secondary market of all of the people that have been sanctioned, and the sanctions that come down later are nowhere near as consequential or as impactful because there is now a network that has been forcibly designed against said sanctions. Anyway, what I was trying to say, though, what I was talking about with respect to Iran here is that obviously, if Iran continues to show restraint, I think America will, if they stamp it out right now, even if they do quote unquote fake diplomacy in the interim, in the short term, they will inevitably do destabilization and regime change in the long term.